Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So this is part 2 of a better way to practice arpeggios. Now in episode 1 we discussed a lot of the pitfalls to arpeggio playing, and then we went on to discuss ways of practicing that avoids these pitfalls and makes the motions much more smooth and fluent, which will help overall fluency. So just as a quick recap, we discussed how the thumb tuck, as it's traditionally taught, creates a tremendous amount of tension in the hand. We also discussed about how the extreme wrist motions when we play also cause a lot of tension in the wrist and arm and can lead to carpal tunnel syndrome, actually. We also discussed how the leading with the elbow sort of school of thought is a better solution, but it also causes other problems. It involves too much upper arm and makes the arm very stiff, it doesn't move, as well as the arm is naturally going to be out of alignment from the hand. And so our solution to this is a proper sort of thumb tuck, which I don't like calling it a thumb tuck because it has too many bad connotations. But the thumb can come under the hand about to behind the third finger, and there's no real tension. Obviously there's a certain amount of tension in the thumb, but it's not an excess amount of tension. That's an important point. The hand is still free and mobile, okay? Now, one quick note about this that I actually forgot to mention is that when we do bring the thumb under, behind the third finger, it's important that the first joint not be curled. If you curl this, you'll notice that this is much tighter, and it just feels more tight. If the joint is not pulled in, it's much more loose, okay? So that's another important thing. We don't want to pull the thumb in like so that this is really bent like that, okay? And then we also discussed how we want to maintain alignment of the arm behind the fingers, okay? And basically the idea here is we want to have the arm at sort of a right angle to the keyboard or just sort of straight into the keyboard as much as possible. And this means that it's sort of a straight line for the muscles and really the tendons to go through the wrist to the fingers so that they just can move really freely and the fingers move very freely. And then we also have this rotation movement as we play and a slight horizontal movement. Now, going from there, you'll also notice that as I do that, see how I'm leaning over, okay, so that my arm can be as close to this alignment as possible. And as I play up, notice that my torso moves. Now, this is a very, very important point because this allows my arm to stay straight to the keyboard, first of all. Second of all, it means that my shoulder doesn't have to do very much. My arm is really just hanging from the shoulder joint, and as I move over, my elbow is actually just pretty loose. It's just my arm is hanging from that shoulder joint. My elbow is not being held stiff out. And this is a very important point as well. All right, so let's talk a little bit about how to practice. So you want to start practicing by just focusing on the rotational movement and forget about the thumb, okay? So we're just going to think, and you can actually say this out loud. You can say left, right, right, left, right, 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 left, 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 right, left, left. And then in the left hand, it's the opposite, of course. You're going to go right, left, left, right, left, left, left. Now, because the hands are mirror images of each other, notice how I'm playing up, starting in the right hand, and I'm starting actually playing down. And that's so that it's the same as the right hand. So the motions are the same. Going down is going up in the right hand, and the motions are the same as coming down in the right hand, okay? Now, it brings us to the second way of practicing. I would then go on, and I would do this actually in two different keys. I would do C major and E major, because the fingerings are the same, but E major has a black key in it, so I would just kind of get used to that, okay? Once you get comfortable with that, I would then play that going in contrary motion, okay? Starting from the middle of the keyboard. So I would do this so that, again, the motions are the same. Towards the body, away, away, towards the body, away, 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 towards the body, towards, and then that's an away motion, towards. Okay, so you can see that. Once you're comfortable with that, and you can do that really fluently, okay, in those two keys, I would start adding more keys. Now, other keys, for instance, like D flat major or B flat major, I would start with the third, okay? So play it like it's in an inverted arpeggio. So you're going to start by playing on the third, and the reason why we want to do this is so that the motions are the same, right? So it's going to be the left, right, left, right, left movement, right? And then after you get comfortable with that, then you can add the root. Okay? And then in the left hand, it's a little bit different. Because, for instance, in D flat, we start with the second finger, I would actually start with the root of the chord, right? So I'd go left, right, left, right, etc. Okay? So, and the same thing with B flat. Okay, I would start with the third and then add the root once you get comfortable with that. And the same in the left hand. Now I use a 3-2-1 fingering in B flat, which is less common, but I like doing that 3-2-1, 3-2-1, etc. Now, because you're going to start practicing with different fingerings in right and left for some of those other keys that have different fingerings, I would start by doing that hands alone. Once you're comfortable, then you can start putting those hands together, etc. Now, once you're really comfortable with a wide range of keys, I would start adding the thumb movement. Now, it's very important to be careful with the thumb movement. Again, as you play, the thumb only comes behind the third finger and it doesn't pull in excessively like this. A small amount of this is fine. That's just sort of natural for the thumb, okay? But not like that. And again, what you want to do is you want to say, okay, I'm going to play the thumb, play the second finger, and immediately the thumb comes in like so, okay? So it's like play, thumb comes in, play. And again, in the right hand, same thing. But again, it's very important to make sure the thumb comes under only a little ways. Now, the last point that I wanted to make briefly is that when you practice, it's really, really easy to be doing something slightly different in, for instance, the left hand. Because most people are right-handed, and so they'll naturally pick it up easier in the right hand. So this has happened to me in the past, and with my students a lot as well, is they'll be playing something, and they'll be doing something weird in the left hand. So a very common thing is to lift on the thumb, sort of like this, which is kind of awkward, right? Well, that will totally change the rotation. It will change everything about what you're doing because you're adding different movements and everything, so it will feel different. It might feel very awkward. It might even make you tired, and so it won't work as well. So it's very important to make sure that everything is exactly the same in both hands, and that's why I recommend practicing first right hand by itself, left hand, and then slowly adding that in contrary motion. Now sometimes this connection, right, where you sort of shift in both hands and go back to the thumb on the root, that can be a very challenging movement, but the reason why I recommend practicing like that is so that you can get used to that movement before you really start doing other things. So for instance, before you put your hands doing parallel motion, notice that your hands are doing opposite things, right? So I'm going to rotate left, right, and then left in the right hand, but right in the left hand. Well, because you're doing different things, it's very easy to not do that in the left hand, not actually use the rotation, or in the right hand, and so things get kind of a little bit messed up and not quite right, and then as you speed up, it's not quite right. It will be more efficient and smoother, perhaps, but it will be difficult to build speed because we've sort of missed little steps on the way. Alright guys, so that concludes this video. So I definitely recommend that you give these practice techniques a try, and don't forget to put some comments down below and let me know what you found the most helpful in practicing arpeggios and what your thoughts are. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.
Kontrolle nicht. Und wenn das Herz